I tried to build a regular commander deck, and instead I ended up building a deck that wins without me ever talking.
I'm Beezy, and I'm pretty sure they named Abzan after me.
I'm Mia, and I'm a Mardu player, and we're the Nitpicking Nerds. We're sponsored by Card Kingdom, the best place online to be buying cards, and any sort of sealed product that you might want, and all of the awesome cardboard selection that you might want.
You can even find a website, if you go to the link in our description, that's where you should buy cards from, because it tells them that we sent you, but that you can also find lists that we personally recommend of Magic cards you should be buying right now. We're also sponsored by Dragon Shield, best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
If you use the code
NERDS
at checkout, you can save 5% of your real money tax dollars on sleeves, custom sleeves even, among other things. And I like a lot of them, especially Ruby Red, because they have a nice little sparkle to them.
They really do. And we have a Patreon. Thank you so much for everyone who keeps the lights on and gives Amber treats. If you want to support us, go check us out right there and get so many more perks we can't even tell you on the show.
So gotta say, very off-putting to switch the voice lines that we usually do.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
I don't know how to feel about that, but we want to talk about a deck that you built. It's going to be a lot of personal experience from this, and honestly, this deck
a lot of pain on your end.
I feel like it opened up a new pathway for us to build decks, and we definitely learned a lot from it, so we want to share it with you and tell you how you can maybe replicate some of it at home.
This is my Uro deck. It was inspired by the Tricky Terrain Precon from Modern Horizons 3. There are a ton of awesome cards from there. Most notably, one of my favorites, Horizon of Progress and Talon Gates, but those are not cards that are actually in this deck. Uro was reprinted for the first time in a really long time in that Precon, dropped into like a budgety level, and I thought that would be a great time for me to try and build a more budget deck.
Yeah, I think the Precon itself inspired you to build Uro, not necessarily you wanted to build a deck that was like the Precon.
Yeah, there were just a lot of pieces within there where I'm like, oh, that looks cool. Oh, I never play with this because I am a Mardu player usually. And then I saw Uro, I'm like, this is it. This is what's rocking.
Yeah, it's taught us a fair bit. I've gotten walloped, destroyed by this deck more times than I can count. And eventually, I wasn't even trying to brainstorm for a video. It was just like, why does this keep happening? And then I was like, oh, maybe there's some stuff to unpack here. So that's what this video is, honestly. And the win condition for this deck is sneaky. It's dirty, and it lets you just, I swear to God, I don't have the exact numbers, but you have an 80% win rate with this deck, I feel like, when I play against it. And part of it is due to that sneaky win con that we will get to, don't worry.
But to set the scene, we have to talk about the main commander himself. Herself, I don't really know that much about lore. It's Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. 1 blue-green for a 6/6. When it enters, you sacrifice it unless it escapes, which you're going to be doing most of the time. When it enters or attacks, you gain 3 life and you draw a card. Then you can put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. That doesn't say tapped, I just want to let you know. If you pay green, green, blue, blue, and exile 5 other cards from your graveyard, you can bring it from the graveyard to the battlefield, and that's super awesome because that's how we're going to evade commander attacks. The craziest part about this deck is that I don't even need to talk when playing it. The game just goes how I want it to.
It's so annoying. You just zip your lips, and then you end up winning the game 6 turns later. Yeah, I gotta say, Uro is the perfect commander for this deck, and it doesn't really give away too much of what the strategy is. I think that's very specific with how you built this deck, and I think this deck is a masterclass. I envy this deck, and I could only hope to build a deck like this one day.
You do not play sneaky decks. You are often the threat.
I'm always the heads-up, obvious threat.
This one lurks in silence, kind of like lions move.
Lions do move in silence.
But the first thing I'd like to point out about this deck is that even though Uro has a big chunky body and attacks for a lot, this is not a commander damage matters like deck. If you happen to get 4 hits in as the game progresses, you might be able to kill someone with that, but that's not really what I'm aiming for. In fact, I don't really want Uro to hit you for the most part. I usually say something like, oh, you have a 1/1, you could chump it, it's fine. I'm just trying to get the card draw and the land, I'm just trying to mosey on over, do my thing. And that in all is kind of all I'm trying to do. I really am not trying to swing in for damage, and that is what makes it not that threatening.
If Uro had trample, it would make this deck so much worse, even though that would be a better ability to have. You always hit them with I just want the card, just chump it. And then when they chump it, they feel like, oh, you're not getting through to me. Yeah. You're not accomplishing anything. It's like this weird psychological effect where they feel like they're stopping you because they're chumping or they're nullifying the attack, with a block or something, and then you get exactly what you want, which is to lay low, be sneaky, and continue the game as is.
Maybe I take out a 1/1 that might have been a flicker target later, or maybe I took something out that other people wanted, but most of the time, I usually like to swing in with the person who has, 2 1/1s that are prey disposable, or maybe 3 1/1s, something that won't kill Uro, and then we'll also get something off the board. Like, I'm not trying to cast Uro from the graveyard too many times, but it's a nice backup plan if I need. But getting something off the board because of that swing, and then also getting the life, card draw, and land out of it is a lot of value.
Well, the escape ability of Uro will loom over the game and sort of disincentivize people from killing it because you're ramping, you're getting more lands out, and I think, well, I have to spend this much mana to kill it. I want to progress my board, or if I, gang up and block it somehow, you're just going to replay it.
Yes.
So that, too, contributes to, let's just maintain the status quo.
Yeah, and the replayability is so awesome. There's no commander tax for the most part. If there's a commander tax, it's going to have to be after like a Bajuka Bog on my graveyard and a board wipe. Because no one's going to be killing this for the most part. I have a lot of ways to mill in this deck, and as the game goes on, I'm usually finding those because of all of the incessant card draw within Uro. It's just very easy to find my little pieces to keep that engine going. So I'm never casting Uro for 5, 7, 9, unless things are very, very dire.
Part of the thing that makes this deck scary is the consistency. Every single game, you're trying to play Uro on turn 3 and escape Uro on turn 4, which means turns 1 and 2, you got to use like Terramorphic Expanse and all of these cards that we're about to name so that you get 4 or 5 cards in the graveyard so that by the time Uro comes down, you're getting another a fifth, and then you can escape it. So Malevolent Rumble is like the quintessential one. It's 1 and a green sorcery. Reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You can put a permanent from among them into your hand, put the rest into your graveyard, and you get a 0/1 spawn that sacks for mana. This essentially only costs 1 because it refunds you, but you can use that on a later turn. You can store it up, and it puts 4 cards in your graveyard.
Yeah, it actually puts 5 if you don't take anything from there, because Malevolent Rumble will actually go to the graveyard. Sometimes I like to do that, sometimes I don't.
That could be relevant.
Yeah, sometimes maybe I'll chump with a 1/1 very, very early, something that comes down like Town Greeter, 1 and a green for a 1/1. When it enters, you mill 4 cards. You can put a land from among them into your hand. If you put a town in this way, which I don't even have towns, you gain 2 life. So you'll mill 4 cards, maybe I'll put a land, maybe I won't. And then I block with Town Greeter on turn 3 or whatever, and then I have that 5th card, Uro's ready to rumble. I think that this is also a really good deck for the consistency because, yes, I want to have a good start of make sure to have at least a few cards in the graveyard by turn 2. Turn 3, Uro comes out and gets sacked. Turn 4, I want to make sure I have all the cards to get Uro back out. But in theory, if you have a good enough hand, you could mull down to like 5 or 4 just because if you have a couple lands and you have a way to get something into the graveyard, Uro will do the rest for you because you have card draw, you have ramp, you have all that stapled onto the commander itself.
This deck mulligans pretty well. Hedron Crab's another one. It's blue for an 0/3 landfall. Target player mills 3. The target player for the first half of the game is going to be you. We have tons of graveyard synergies. We have tons of escape that we need to fuel for the future. This is definitely a landy type deck, so we're going to need those cards in the graveyard, and that's got to be the best turn 1 play that you have, right?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't have too many turn 1 plays before I started updating this deck a little bit here and there. Hedron Crab has been so good. It has been an all-star. And then later in the game, if you tutor something to the top, I find you're a little bit low on cards in your library, maybe I start aiming those at you too, because I'm slapping down lands very quickly no matter what progress, like whatever part of the game it is, minus the parts where sometimes I fail to find because I've already exercised like all of my lands into my deck.
Definitely turns where you can hit 7 landfall triggers on that, no problem.
Yeah.
And the other thing about Uro is sometimes you even want it to die. You've got Greater Good in here.
Yeah.
2 green, sack a creature, draw X where X is power, and then discard 3. With Uro out, I'm not touching Uro because that is too much value to force you to activate. And then if you ever really want to, you can just do it yourself.
Yeah, and I'd always rather Uro trade up to. I don't mind. I always want to attack with Uro, but if it doesn't have haste or something, or, I keep it and someone swings at me with a gigantic creature like a 10/6 commander that's like Voltron, for instance, I would trade Uro for that because I still get those ETB triggers, and it's pretty easy for me to get back out of the graveyard.
Just like it's pretty easy for you to get cards back out of the graveyard when you put them on Moxfield.com. You can have pre-selected themes or packages of cards. For example, Town Greeter, Satyr Wayfinder, Malevolent Rumble, Grapple with the Past. If you're going to play those cards in all of your green-based mill graveyard decks, have that as a package on Moxfield, then you can just go add the package instead of adding all 4 cards individually. Super duper time saver.
Moxfield is so awesome. If you want to see the list for this deck, you should look at the QR code right here because you can share decks via QR code.
It is a treat. You're going to want to look at this deck list, I think. So we're going to talk about now the sustaining aspect of this deck. We're talking about this deck is very sneaky.
Yes.
This deck is devious. This deck steals games every single time I play against it. And one of the things that it wants to do, like we said, is just maintain the status quo. The deck never looks like it's doing anything in particular except playing 2 lands a turn. And it never has blockers, and you're somehow always at 40 because of Uro, and that's where we're getting in here.
I feel like we say this a lot. You're like, I'm not going to block. Life is a resource. No one blocks in Commander. You have been quoted saying that multiple times.
I'll say it again.
And it, like, taking hits is a good way to look like you're behind. And
Yeah,
with the whole taking hits thing, as long as it's not from someone who is trying to get you with Commander damage, you can usually regain that life. I can usually get 1 to 2 Uro triggers per turn, whether that be through attacking or entering or some combination of, like, you know, entering, dying, entering again.
Uro's good for like 15 life a game.
Yeah.
Knowing that, you have weaponized early attacks such that like someone will hit you for 8 or 10 or 18, and you just go like, oh no. Well, next time you guys think about attacking, let's look at life totals because I'm at 27. And then, you know, 3 turns later, you're just back at 33 or something.
Yeah, 3 is not that much in like the short term, but it adds up over time when you're getting so many triggers off of it, and it can kind of just offset those like aggro decks where it's like you're swinging 5 goblins at me, I guess I'll take it, but if we're going around the table, why don't you swing over there next time and I'll like slowly gain this advantage. It's not exactly like gigantic where if you swing 40 at me I won't die, but But, you know, you can just pace out the game. This is more of a lay low deck, and I'm happy to be playing that kind of strategy.
I just have so much trouble laying low. I feel like
Yeah,
all the
it's
cards
because
I
you have
play,
a big mouth.
all the cards I play are super duper problems, and there isn't a single card in this deck that really screams that until it's too late. And then by that point you just win, which is what I admire so much about this deck. It's brilliant. I think the other thing too that this doesn't necessarily factor in, because we're going to talk about tips for you guys to build this type of deck at home too. This is a budget-ish deck. It's like 120, 100. I think that plays to the strengths of it.
Yeah.
I think this deck, because it is not really expensive, you're not going to see game changers really.
No.
You're not going to see soul rings. You're not going to see like shocklands or like the Misty Rainforest fetches. So you don't look scary at any point, because at any point your board state costs like $10.
Yeah.
That definitely adds to it.
A lot of my deck is like uncommons, or like I'm playing the Tabland like Restless Vine Stock. I'm playing that.
Yeah.
No one thinks, wow, that's a really scary card.
Oh,
until,
no.
Until it is. There's also a lot of like little chump blockers / disposable guys in here. As we mentioned before, the Town Greeters of the world or the Satyr Wayfinders. Those are both focused in here, and they help me mill my early game. But if you're swinging a 8/8 at me on turn 4, I will just sack it. It'll be 1 more card to feed Uro, and it saves me from 8 damage in the long run.
Yeah, stuff that kind of, I think your deck typically usually has 1 or 2 creatures in play.
Yeah.
And you're at like 30 life. That's kind of the board state you like to maintain. And some of the creatures you're going to see are like Shigeki, Jukai Visionary, 1 in a green, 1/3. You can pay 1 in a green, tap it, and return it as the cost to reveal top 4, put a land from among those onto the battlefield tapped, put the rest into your graveyard. So this is early mill, perfect, love it. But it's also not a card I want to attack a non-evasive creature into, because you're just going to chump, but then bounce a Shigeki and use the ability. So it's not even really a chump. It's like, I feel like I wasted my attack. And then obviously once it's in your hand, XX green, discard it, bring back a bunch of stuff.
I love the channel ability. You can get anything that's non-legendary, and I don't have that many legendary things in here. I have a bunch of like sorceries or instants that I might want, maybe some interaction that I find, maybe I get like an Ewit or something,
Or like a Timeless Witness, perhaps?
I mean, if I didn't eternalize already, Timeless Witness is 2 green for a 2/1. When it enters, return target card from your graveyard to your hand, or you can eternalize it for 5 green. This is a great way to have a little bit of that recursion. Say I milled over something juicy. Well, it's usually pretty safe in my graveyard. As we've talked about before, people don't play enough graveyard hate.
You should.
And I really think you should, because this is one of the reasons why this deck kind of like runs away with the game at times.
Late game, this is a great mana sink. You're going to mill over it most of the time, and then be happy to eternalize it once you have way too many lands, when they let you Uro way too many times and they realize it is way too late. But Timeless Witness is even a nice little combo with Shigeki, because while you cannot get back Legends, you can get back Timeless Witness, which could get back a legend if that's really so crucial at that moment.
Yeah, I'm also running Ewit in here, and I feel like a couple other recursion pieces too. So I'm never really worried about like milling myself out or anything like that.
Yeah, another factor that this deck does very well is leveraging removal and leveraging the fact that there are 4 players in a game. This deck knows what it needs to happen to survive, and typically that's just random actions playing out. We don't want game changers. We don't want 1 card win the game things.
Yeah.
But this deck has like almost no removal in it. For us, for a deck built by us, it is very low on removal. And that's because you've played the status quo, have all these average game occurrences happen where someone's taking 6, someone's taking 7. Cool. Oh, a board wipe. I don't care. Escape Uro. And then if something threatens you, that's where you use one of your very few removal spells.
I have pieces of removal here and there, which is very odd for us because we like our Flare of Malices, our Soul Shatters, etc.
Sure do.
But in Simic, it's not like I have a plethora of board wipe at my fingers or, I have a ton of little like removal spells here and there. So I'm trying to mostly get my game plan in action. And I'd also like to point out that with this deck, I think it's kind of specific because there are often things that are hurting everyone else a lot more than they're hurting me. Painful Quandary, for instance, hurts everyone else a lot more than it hurts me.
You don't even care.
I like stuff in my graveyard. I can gain 3 life per Uro trigger. That stuff isn't really bothering me that often, but that might hurt a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And I find that with like scary things like that, a lot of other people will take care of them for me because it's hurting them so much more. It's so much more of a threat for them.
Even like a Terror of the Peaks or something, or like a Great Henge to you, you probably just leave it at play. Because you're going to, like, unless the Terror of Peaks is comboing with like 25 million power, then you take it out. But if it's going to hit for 5 a turn, you literally don't care. It's so funny. Mystic Confluence is going to be one of those pinpoint removal spells we're going to keep. 3 blue for an instant. Choose 3. You can choose the same mode more than once if you want. Counter a spell unless its controller pays 3. Draw a card or return a creature to its owner's hand. Nice knowing that when you hold up 5 mana for this, while it is a lot, you will always be able to cast it.
Yeah, whether I'm drawing 3 cards, bouncing a couple creatures, or doing 1 of each. It's super nice. And I know it's kind of one of the more expensive counterspells, but it's very multimodal. And when you're ramping this much to begin with, it's not that hard to have 5 mana untapped. And whether that's like, oh, are you holding something? Or do you just have so much mana that you just don't know what to do with it? Sometimes A, sometimes B.
Also got Resculpt in here. Blue staple. 1 and a blue instant. Exile an artifact or creature, and they get a 4/4. Nice to hold until it's super relevant.
Yeah, don't worry. You could hit me with the 4/4. It's fine. I'm usually not that worried.
Like, we're saving this for like a Bolas of Citadel.
I also love Foundation Breaker in here. 3 and a green for a 2/2, but you can evoke it for 1 and a green. When it enters, you can destroy target artifact or enchantment. This is a special one because I want cards in my graveyard, so I evoke it. It adds 1 more to the Uro count, and I'll get rid of something for a very cheap rate.
Yeah, I'm a little worried. Even though this is a budget deck, you got some foils in there.
I have a lot of foils in here,
Some of them
surprisingly.
were curling.
Yes.
But not with foil armor, because once you put the Uro deck in a deck box, slapped a foil armor packet in there, it humidified it to the appropriate amount, decurled the foils, and then you take it out and it's completely fine.
Foil armor is the best way to be decurling your foils. I have had so many curly foils, those Baldur's Gates ones, those Commander Legends ones.
Baldur's Gate's gnarly
Awful.
for foils.
But you just put these in, you close your eyes, you wait a week, and then you open your box again, and they are perfect. It's super crazy how this works. I am always surprised.
Learn more, buy the product, link in the description. It's really good. And so all of this stuff is merging together, and it's why we said you don't need to talk with this deck. You can just shut up and let the game play out. And when you're laying low with Uro, when these chump blocks are on board, when they know they could just block, you really don't even have to say anything when you're playing this deck, and it will just play out the way you want.
It's crazy because there are so many politics in Commander, but unlike BZ, the way I like to play Commander is I don't really talk that often. I like to shut up and let everyone else kind of make their own assumptions.
Smart.
And I think that this deck is a really good example of that, where it's like, I'm not going to be policing you. I'm not going to be like sniping your thing down. I'm not going to be targeting anyone in particular. In fact, it's going to look like I'm doing a lot of nothing most of the time.
I'm getting hit for 12.
Yeah, I'm going to be like, okay, mill 4, bring back Uro, attack with Uro, kill him again, bring him back, attack for 4.
Yep.
Like, I'm going to mill 4 again. I'm going to be looking like I'm playing solitaire, but in like, not like a way where I'm going to win.
It's going to look like, oh, shoot. Mia's not getting her game plan in line. And then meanwhile, in her head, she's like, this is exactly what I want.
You know when BZ plays like 14 Wayfarer's baubles in the same turn, nothing really happens. Hi, me. So that's kind of what's going to look like, but we're actually going to get a win out of it.
It's just 14 lands instead of Mishra's baubles.
Yeah, but what's our win con?
We got to bring down the hammer, and this deck does it better than almost any that you have. This is the sneaky win condition. All of the decks that are in this category are going to need some kind of sneaky win condition, and your sneaky win condition of choice?
It is animating lands. Lands are the untouchable thing in Magic the Gathering. We're not allowed to play things like Armageddon because no mass land destruction. That's not really fun, and I get it. But because of that, mass land destruction is not available, and so when you have 45 billion mana on field, that turns into 45 billion creatures that really cannot be touched for the most part.
And crucially, your opponents have no idea how close you are or not to doing that, because all they have to reference is your land count.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's not going to be any enchantment that you play that clues them into, oh, watch out, big turn coming, just whenever you feel like it.
Yeah, I am going to be doing that with sorceries and instants. My first one is the favorite of this deck.
Love this card.
Rude Awakening. 4 and a green for a sorcery. You choose one. You can either untap all lands you control, or until end of turn, lands you control become 2/2s that are still a lands. You float a bunch of mana into this. I have way more than 7 mana at this point. I probably have like 15 when I start casting this. I float all the ones I don't need, and then I entwine it, and they all become untapped. So this can either be a super ritual, or I can just animate all of them, or some mixture of both if I really want to.
Yeah, so we're going to use probably, I think this deck ends up doing this once or twice to win. So the first time, you'll Rude Awakening with like 20 lands in play, take out a player and a half. The game's progressed. People are getting chipped. You're not really caring because you're gaining all this life. And then you take out a player. And then once you're down to the other 2 players, like, oh, crap. And they just don't have the facilities to stop you. There's also Sylvan Awakening, 2 and a green sorcery. So your next turn, all lands you control become 2/2s with reach, indestructible, and haste. They are still lands. This one is a little bit less desirable, but it gets the job done.
It is so risky because it's until the end of your next turn. Farewell, I'm just dead.
Well, the other thing, too, about this deck is, like, we have access to blue. We have the counter spells. These are the spells we're leaving up in case somebody tries to farewell. We go, no. That's why I play 3 counter spells to get this out of here.
Yeah, Rude Awakening will give me the mana back, which is really nice, and I could play something afterwards, like a finisher. I'm running things like Enray's Forerunners in here, which will buff all the lands, and I'm
Return of the Wild Speaker.
Yeah, I'm never usually playing the lands and keeping them as 2/2s, which is some of the most important part, so I can actually take players out. A bunch of 2/2s isn't as scary as a bunch of 5/5s.
Not quite.
But with this one, at least I get a little bit of haste and a little bit of indestructible too. Reach, very weird because I will be attacking with them and not blocking.
Who cares? Yeah.
But it's a sorcery speed too, super weird, whatever though. Let's not think about that too much. These are going to be great ways to animate the lands and keep them as creatures. And there's things like Kamal's Will too. No one really cares about these wheels usually, but I do. It's 3 and a green for an instant. Choose one, but if you control a commander as you cast it, which we will because we're almost always controlling Uro, you can choose both. Until end of turn, any number of target lands you control become 1/1 creatures with vigilance, indestructible, and haste, but they're also lands. Or you can choose target creature you don't control. Each creature you control deals damage equal to its power to that creature. And that is going to animate all my lands and be a very big removal spell. It will take out basically any creature so long it doesn't have indestructible.
Plus, Vigilance is nice on defense if there's 1 or 2 players left.
The Vigilance is super nice too because I'm going to be attacking with all of these indestructible lands, but also I'll have the mana so I can be casting spells afterwards too. I like this one. I think it's like the second best. Rude Awakening is first, this is second, and Sylvan Awakening is third. But all of them get the job done, and it's a very sneaky way to win in this deck.
Just from out of nowhere. That is what's going to tie this whole little shtick together and make this deck work very well. There's not really a way to wipe you off the field. I genuinely think this deck could care less if a board wipe hits. I think you'd rather just there be a board wipe every turn.
Yes.
Because you just literally don't care. You play Uro. That is the only card you care about, but it is recurable infinitely.
Yeah, and there's so many wipes that say destroy all non-land permanents
Sure.
or whatever. Or it's like, destroy all creatures. Or the only board wipe that I'm ever really worried about is Aetherize. But if you don't have 4 mana up, I don't worry. And I always...
That card sucks.
Yeah, I also keep a few lands back too because usually I want to cast some spells or I want to, keep it just so that if you do have an Aetherize, I'm not wiped off the face of the planet.
I find that even though you play limited removal in this deck, you're able to hold it for so long that it's frustrating to me when I try to stop you and I just can't because you have 2 counterspells in hand because nobody has threatened your core strategy, which really the only way to do that is to attack your life total until you're dead. But you're kind of like taking advantage of the social contract going, but I'm at 20.
Yeah, and I'm also not doing much, and there's always someone at the table who looks way more threatening than me.
Because you have nothing in play.
Yeah, when someone slaps down a Rhystic Study and a Smothering Tithe, and I'm over here like, here's Satyr Wayfinder. Do you guys like Perpetual Timepiece? Yeah, it looks a lot less threatening, but winning out of nowhere, shutting up, and letting everyone else do the removal, the policing, the politicking, while I don't really have to do that, is what makes this deck shine. It's because I just lay low. You even forget that there's a 4th player. So
I'm here for the vibes.
I'm here to take advantage of that, and I really like it. There are a lot of cards that are really good with lands because lands are pretty much uninteractable. One of them being Scoot Swarm, obviously. There's going to be so many ways to slap lands on the field, whether that's Uro.
This is your loudest card.
Yeah, Scoot Swarm is the thing that you will want to kill, which makes sense. Scoot Swarm is scary. But if you kill it, I'm not dead in the water. That's not my only finisher.
You kind of just want the chump blockers.
Yeah, chump blockers are nice because I have things like Return of the Wild Speaker and such that those can also just be gigantic creatures if given enough time. There's also things like Blossoming Tortoise. I love Blossoming Tortoise. If you saw us on Joel's channel recently,
Crazy
I talked
card.
about how much I love it.
Very strong.
This buffs land creatures, which is super, super
Yeah, I can't
nice.
believe that part of the card is relevant on your deck.
I don't do the activate land one too much, but
a couple.
Yeah, I've done it once or twice. It's pretty cool. And then the milling, when it enters or attacks, it fuels the early game, and then the land buff fuels the late game. This is a great draw no matter when I draw it.
Yeah, shoutouts to Restless Vinestalk because even you're never gonna pay the mana to make it a 5/5, but when it's animated through some other means, it just can make something else a 3/3, which is just like so funny. It's the most mild upside I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But we take those.
It just says when it attacks. It doesn't say I had to pay 5 mana to make it attack. What if I paid 5 mana for all of my lands?
Yeah, what if I just did that? And now, speaking a little bit to like your deck can build a board state sometimes with Scoot Swarm, but your other sort of sneaky win con is Walk the Aeons. 4 blue sorcery, buy back, sacrifice 3 islands. If you do so, the card goes back into your hand after it resolves. Target player, you, takes an extra turn after this one. Because you're doing all the Splendid Reclamations and the the ramping and the Uroing and getting all these lands in play, this usually says take 3 extra turns on it over the course of 3 turns. You have to pay 6 each time, but you're smashing with either animated lands, Uro, and some other creatures without blockers in the way because you've orchestrated this, or you're just Scoot Swarming and you're doubling and doubling and doubling, and now you have the time that it takes to attack with all the Scoot Swarm army.
I think making your own time is really, really important in this deck. This is one of the best cards in the deck.
Yeah.
Obviously, take an extra turn is one of the most powerful things. But when you can recur your lands, I think I could take as many of like 6 or 8 turns. You go Splendid Rec and Aftermath Analyst. Spelunking's in there so you can get your like mana back and play more spells. There's Ewit, there's Timeless Witness. You bring back things like Shigeki. You keep looping.
You might even have some infinite loops in here with enough lands because all those things together sound like we're close to a loop. But yeah,
a lot of pieces though.
It's never come to that because you take 2 turns and you just win. This is another like perfect out of nowhere. You can't plan for it on the board. You never know when it's coming. You have to just take Mia out of the game before it looks like she's going to do anything.
Honestly, sometimes with this card, even an extra turn, sometimes it's just draw 2, get 2 Uro triggers and pass. But I'm still ready to do that because sacking 3 islands is not that big of a downside for me when I can recur my lands so easily.
Yeah, one thing this deck has going for it is, this is huge. If you're trying to build a deck like this and you think this sounds appealing, if you play at Magicons, LGSs, this deck is almost impossible to decipher the first time you see it. As an opponent of this deck, I've seen this many times. They are just bamboozled every time. Because what is this deck doing? It's doing nothing. It's always behind. It always looks like it's losing. And then, oh, wait, how many lands do you have? There come 2/2s? Return of the Wild Speaker, and then they're dead.
Yeah, I think that because it looks so unassuming until I pull out the big guns at the end.
It's the perfect idea, yeah.
It's very easy to just lay low and
you don't
not
talk.
worry about. I don't talk during it.
I'm screaming and yelling for them to kill you.
I'm
and
at like 25.
I look like a crazy person because they're like, easy. Mia's at 20. I think you need to stop being a bully. And then Mia's like, saying
I'm
nothing.
at 20. I have like 2 1/1s on the board, and you're like, you have to kill her right now. And you're at like 38. You have like a whole board. You're like, no, you don't understand.
It's the woman like yelling at the cat. I'm like, and you're just like, I got lands.
You really are, and you look crazy doing it.
I do look crazy.
But staying silent, and when people defer to you, or it's like, what should I kill? Because I'm not doing anything. What my opinion probably matters a little bit more.
You're always the impartial third party.
Because most things that you're doing don't affect what I'm doing, and most things I'm doing do not affect you until it's my turn to win.
Now, I want to say, if you're trying to get this deck together, I don't think this deck comes together on accident. There's a lot of pieces you have to have, and if they're not all together, I don't think you have this type of deck. You need a lay low commander, a commander that is not going to kill people. It's not really this #1 game changer threat to everyone's immediate safety. There's a lot of commanders like that. Uro is one of them, and that fits that mold, but you don't have to play Uro. I think you also want to maintain the status quo, the board stall, the board wipe every couple turns. No one really can get a foothold because that's exactly where you thrive.
Yeah, you want to be able to go, well, I don't know, I might kill this over here or that, whatever works best for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think the answer, whatever works best for you, is something that I like to
Players
just
love
kind of
hearing
like, yeah, because it's like, sure, whatever happens is fine with me. And that is what I'm saying. Don't police the table, just shut up. BC's very bad at this, which is why he can't play decks like this.
I can't even do
because
it.
you could build a deck like this, but then you'd have to be quiet.
You really do have to if you're a person who's loud at a table, tone it back. You also need a sneaky non-combat win condition. This could be animating lands. This could be Comet Storm, Torment to Hailfire, some sort of extra turn thing. Maybe if you're in the right power level, just A plus B combo. That will also do it. That does qualify. And I think you need all 4 of these together. If you're slamming 12/12s and dinosaurs and threats, you can't pull this off.
Yeah, this is no Pantlaza deck.
Right. To pull off the Shut Up deck, whatever this deck's called, you have to get all these things together. And I think it's important. Maybe we'll talk about some commanders that we think could pull this off, some alternates, and then some that definitely could not.
I think this deck thrives in some of those pods with the high-value target commanders, the Kalias, the Panlazas, etc., because a lot of those are winning off board, like damage on the board. I don't care about that as much as the average person. And when those combat-focused decks like to hit, they usually like to spread it around, you know, usually not taking someone out who has a 1/1.
Or even the decks that are super aggro, if they're dealing like 10 damage a turn, you tend to be higher than the starting life total because you have about 15 life to play with over the course of the game with Uro. So you're not even that scared of that. You're usually the last person left, and then you can just let loose. So I think another commander you could pull this off with is Roxanne, Starfall Savant. She's a little on the threatening side, but the fact that she does help pay for the next casting of her means that sometimes players are disincentivized from killing her. She does have that snowbally feel, and you can, of course, with all that mana, pull off a big X spell.
I think Roxanne, because I also play Roxanne, is interesting because you can play the way Beezy would play, a little bit more threatening, and keep ramping into her with her meteorites shooting stuff down. Or you could go the way that I play her, is have a few treasures to begin with. When she hits, she'll tap for a couple. She'll have a meteorite out. And then you can copy the meteorite token. They don't come in tapped because Roxanne makes them come in tapped. And even if she dies, you'll still have extra mana. You float it in response. You play your big spell, and then you could play it again when you have more tokens to tap. And that is a quieter way to do it, Beasley.
Yes. The next commander, Henzi Toolbox Tour. This is... I think you'd have to build this a little different than you see an average Henzi, because a lot of average Henzis have like 7 drops all day.
Yeah, that's scary.
Henzi is a commander I'm not super thrilled about killing because it makes the blitz cost cheaper. Henzi's always on the battlefield, and one thing Henzi does very good, maybe even better than this Uro deck, is end the turn with no board. And it just looks like they're always behind. It's like, oh, shoot, bummer. I guess I just have Henzi. I guess I'll take 12. But if you build this deck that's gaining life, getting lands in play with all the stuff you're blitzing out, if the cards you're blitzing are not completely egregious, then you fire off, I don't know, like a Rise from the Dark Realms or a Comet Storm or something and just take people out. No one would see that coming.
Yeah, Henzi is pretty scary when built the average way, but if you're putting 4 and 5 drops in, I don't think people will be that angry. Just killing Henzi just feels so bad.
Definitely tilted towards the be quiet deck. Also, Elos Ilkor, I think, is a very low impact card. It's very cheap. It has Death Touch, so you're probably not getting attacked as much. And I think I've tried, I don't know if it's worked yet because I haven't played the deck enough, but I tried to build a deck just like this. You know, the zip your lip.
Well, you have to zip your lip.
I know. Let the game play out, and I'm going to try it with Elos Ilkor. So I think that one would also work.
Elos is good because he has death by 1,000 cuts.
And you gain life residual?
Yeah. 1 damage is not that many, but when you're taking 10 from the Goblin player and then you also take 10 from Elos, then it starts to add up. And if you don't have residual life gain, it hurts.
And my plan at one point is to just go, okay, here's 20 creatures. Sack them all. You're dead. Fireball. Non-combat.
Maybe that Bolus of Citadel can come in.
The Bolus of Citadel can get in. So yeah, commanders you should never try this with. I think Gulta Primal Hunger. Forget about it. You have a 12/12. It is a 2-hit kill. I don't know how you're pulling off laying low or being quiet when you have this in place.
Yeah.
That type of thing is not going to fly with this deck.
I mean, that's also a commander damage matters deck. I'd say any Voltron deck where you care about the commander hitting people is not a deck where you can be doing this.
Now, Rowan, Sign of War. This is a deck that you had for a while.
This is a glass cannon.
This is the opposite of this deck.
Yeah, this is very all eyes are on you. You want to lose a bunch of life, and then Rowan will make all of your spells cheaper by how much life you lost that turn. And so you want to pay a lot of life into it, and maybe you're hanging by a thread 5, 10, 15 at that point because you paid so much life into Rowan. But if you can't cast the spell, if it gets countered, if Rowan dies and you can't get as much value as you would like, you are stuck hurting quite a lot, and then a 1 or 2 combats will take you out.
Yeah, and commanders like Nekusar the Mind Razor, he literally just makes the whole game about him. You know, it's all about, I'm going to warp the game in a mutually destructive way, and everyone's going to get a bunch of crap, and it's like, when Nekusar's in a pod, that whole pod is kind of like, okay, what's going to happen when this comes down, when I draw extra cards? So that's also not going to fly with this.
This is actually kind of funny. Nekusar does warp the game around him, but I feel like for the first half of the game, Nekusar goes, "Do you guys like extra cards?" And they go, "Yeah, boy,
I'm never
would
saying
I."
yes to that. I'm
And
always,
then, just because you kill it doesn't mean. I think he lays low for the first third of the game because everyone goes, "Boy, would I like some extra cards."
You don't
and then they
wanna.
go, "Oh no."
It's never worth it. So hopefully you have the tools now with all this recipe check boxes. You can check the boxes and build a deck of your own. Before that, check out this video. It's Commander gameplay.